Hey there, welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we're going to finish explaining Illustrator's interface. All we have left to see are some of the tools we have, here. We're also going to look at some things I left out in the last lesson. That I left them out for this one because I didn't want to make the other lesson a bit too long. So basically to finish, I'm going to choose V as my key because it's a selection tool. That's really practical and allows us to move selected objects, rotate them, and also change their size. If we hold Shift, we can see that it changes proportionally, and we can scale it and we can rotate it. It's just easier to control. However, if we don't hold the key, the objects will change independently and they won't show any kind of pattern. All right, so I want to now take a look at the functions we have with the selection tool. Okay. So if we double click here, we can see that the way things show on Illustrator change a little bit. Okay, they're different. This is called isolation mode. In the case that we have more than one object in the illustration and we want to change just one of them, what we have to do is double click on this one. So that this way we're isolating it from the rest of them. This way we can make any kind of change without worrying about it changing the rest of the design that we're working on. It will only change what we're touching in isolation mode. Okay, so we're going to stick with this square to continue with the explanation. Okay, so the layers are a window that allow us to divide our work in different parts to be able to work with them in a little, with a little more comfort. Here we have a layer and we can create sub-layers inside it. We can create new layers hitting this button here. And we can also erase them as well, and we can create as many as we want. To find an object that we want to find in its layer, we just have to select the object and look at the little dot of color that shows up depending on the layer. It could be red or green depending on the color of the layer. So I'm going to divide these squares in layers that I've created. I'm going to change the color so you can see it better in the video. Okay, so once we've changed them, we can see that they vary, they superimpose depending on the position of the square in the same layer. So what we can do is also we can group them up. Let's choose one of the layers and integrate them in each other until all of our objects are in the same layer. As you can see, we now have 2 layers and now just one with all our objects in it. To ungroup them, we can either drag the objects that we want outside of the layer, or we could just create a new layer on which we can, Control X and then Control V, and we don't need to drag anything. It's kind of important that you get a bit of practice in correctly positioning them, as it's pretty efficient to have complete control over the use of layers. This is because when we're making our future projects, we'll be able to find what we need easily by just looking at the layers. Okay, so we only have 3 windows left to take a look at. We got this one here, which is the align window, we use it mainly, to align a number of objects into the same project. If we select these two squares here and open our align window, we can see that it gives us different options. If we select the one on the left, it will align the objects concerning the object most to the left of the file. Okay, so in this case, that would be the big green square, which is more to the left. So the little one will be aligned conforming more to this one, okay? There's this one right here to the right, and this one to the center of each of the objects. Okay, so we have the same thing that would happen with the rest of the options, okay? In the align option. The ones we've just used are ones that have to do with the horizontal axis, whereas these ones here have to do more with the vertical one. If we click this button here, we can see that the object will align with whichever is at the topmost point. The object that is higher will be the one to guide the lower object to situate it at its same height. In an opposite way, selecting the one in the middle will align them to the center. Like that, okay? The last button will align them to the bottom part, okay? Then that way they'll be at the same height, but at the bottom. Okay, so this is the last thing we have to explain concerning alignment. I'm going to leave this square here just in case. And let's move on to the text tools. Mainly, I use the character and paragraph tools. In the case that I wanted to edit a text inside my illustration, this one here is default to align the paragraph to the left. I don't recommend using this one at all. It creates like blank spaces while trying to fill in all the blank spaces in the text box that we've created. It just makes them like they're not very aesthetically pleasing when you see them in a text. Okay, so I'm going to move the square and select the text tool. In my case, I'm going to automatically get like this false text. You can edit this with the Illustrator options, but I'm not really bothered by it, so no. I'm going to fill it again. Right click, fill with false text, and there it is again. See that? Came back. Okay, so I'm going to show you the different options in this window. There are similar options in the bar we have above, the toolbar we have above, like the paragraph option, and we can also see one that lets us change the typography of our text. We can change the opacity. We can, well, in the case that our text lets us, we could make it thicker or make it cursive, or we could change its size to however we want, really. We have to keep in mind that our work, what our work is destined for. If it's meant to be printed, the most recommended size is between 9 and 12. This is what I meant with the paragraph one. If you hit the button I was telling you about, it generates these horrible gaps that just don't look good, and that's why I prefer to use the ones on the left, like this one, the standard one that works better with all kinds of texts. A is the character window where we can find similar options to the ones in the bar above. We have different types of texts. Okay. For example, we have this one here that lets us add more space between the lines. We have this one here that lets us increase or decrease the space between the different characters. And, the rest is just about letter sizing and not much more, really. And obviously, whatever letter theme we want to apply to our text. And that's all for today, folks. In the next lesson, we're going to focus on the tools. So, see you guys later. Bye.